So the second type of relief that we need to know about for individuals is this main residence relief. So if you remember, our main residence may be fully or partially exempt from CGT. So if your main residence is your home where you've only ever lived there with your family, never rented it out, never used it for business, then it will be fully exempt. But in some cases, part of the house gain might be chargeable because you've used it for business purposes, or maybe you've rented it out where you've gone to live elsewhere for a period of time. So that's the sort of thing that we're looking at. So what is your main residence? Well, we've got a definition here, but basically it's your house and the land, the gardens that are surrounding the house. And what we have to do is we need to look at this main residence and we need to consider what is our actual occupation and what is our deemed occupation. And that's what we're going to look at on this section of the chapter. So it mentions underneath here that during your period of ownership, if it's not been occupied as your main residence, then partial relief may be available. If the owner has been absent, they may still be deemed to occupy it. So that's what this is. So we need to know what is the definition of actual occupation and deemed occupation. So how do we work out the relief then? So first of all, we look at calculating the gain as normal. So that's your proceeds less your costs that you're allowed to deduct, just like you would with any other gain. Then you look at your total period of ownership. So you will count in exact months from when you buy the property to the disposal date. Then you will calculate the period of occupation. The period of occupation is your actual and your deemed occupation. And then finally, you'll calculate the relief. So the relief is calculated by multiplying the gain by the period of occupation, i.e. the actual and the deemed, over the total period of ownership. So let's say you've lived in it 4 out of the 10 years, then the gain will be calculated and multiplied by 4/10. So 4/10 of the gain will be exempt. It will get the relief, the remainder of the gain will be chargeable. So we need to know what is the difference between actual and deemed occupation. So period of occupation is either, let's put a note over here, actual or deemed. Actual occupation is what we have here. So actual occupation is where you physically live in the property or the last 18 months, right? So you actually live in the property physically, so you stay there on your own or with your family, plus the 18 months, regardless of what you're doing it. So if you've moved out 2 years before you sold it and you never went back to it, the last 18 months will be classed as being you're occupying it, even though you weren't physically there. For the deemed occupation, they look at 3 things. So they look at up to 3 years absent for any reason, any period that you might work abroad, and a maximum of 4 years of living elsewhere in the UK. So absent for any reason could be something like you've gone travelling. So it's unrealistic, isn't it, to think that you will always be living in your main residence. You will have to leave at various points to do other things. So you might go travelling, you might go and live with family for 6 months, you might have to keep going abroad with your job, you might have to sometimes travel around the UK to go and work at different offices. So if any of these occur, then you can claim it as deemed occupation, provided it's preceded and followed by some genuine occupation. That means that if you looked at it on a timeline, if something's happening where it's deemed occupation, right, i.e. any of those 3 things there, so you're travelling abroad or you're working abroad or working elsewhere in the UK, that's okay, provided it's preceded and followed by some actual occupation. So you've got to live in the property some point before you do these and some point after. So if I do I'll go and work abroad, but I never ever come back to the house, then I won't be able to claim that deemed because it's not followed by some actual occupation. All right, it doesn't have to be directly after, because I might travel, then I might go and work abroad, and then I might come back, and that's fine. But at some point before and some point after, there must be some actual occupation.